Hi guys, welcome to the latest video. Today we're looking at using Pythagoras to find the missing sides of right angles. This is part one of two lessons on Pythagoras, so make sure you watch the other one once you've watched this one. Okay, so remember the tips as normal. Watch the video without pausing it, then watch it a second time and do the work with me that I'm going to show you, and then make sure you're pausing it in case I'm going too quickly. Watch the video one more time all the way through and then attempt the questions at the end before you watch the answers. Once you've done them, check your answers. If you've got them wrong, remember that's fine. Just go back, re-watch the video and don't give up until you get all of the questions correct. Okay, so today we're looking at three things. We're going to learn what the word hypotenuse means. We're going to learn very briefly who Pythagoras was and how his theorem works. And finally, I'm going to show you how to find the length of a hypotenuse of a right angled triangle using the theorem. Make sure, don't forget, you do the challenge at the end like I've already said. No point in learning if you're not going to put that into practice. Okay, let's get started. So, first things first then, that word hypotenuse, it's a bit of a interesting mouthful of a word, isn't it? And it's quite tricky to spell as well. I sometimes forget how to spell it, but it's quite simple in terms of what it means. So if I was to draw a right angled triangle, and I'm really sorry, this is not perfect, ignore that little bit up there. Right angled triangle will always have a square in the corner, remember, to show you where the right angle is. And the hypotenuse is the longest side of a right angled triangle. And the way to spot the longest side, because it might not always look the longest, is to look at the line opposite the right angle. So the hypotenuse is always opposite this right angle here. Okay, so this side here is the hypotenuse. All right, and remember, really importantly, the triangles can be any way round, so they could be rotated. So again, here's a right angled triangle, there's the right angle, the hypotenuse is opposite. So the hypotenuse is here. Okay, so the hypotenuse is basically the longest side of a right angle, and you can find it because it's always opposite that right angle in the triangle. Okay, let's take a look now who this guy was and how this works. So Pythagoras was this guy here, or supposedly this is what he looks like. Who knows? The reason we don't know is because he was born in Greece in 580 BC, so over 2,500 years ago. So obviously there was no cameras then, so we don't know if that's who he was, but that's the best example we've got of who he looked like. And he was a mathematician, and he discovered loads of important maths, and one of those was his theorem, the Pythagoras theorem, named after him. And this is how it works. So it allows us to find the length of any side of a right angled triangle. Okay, so we've got three sides obviously of a triangle, so it allows us to find this side, or this side, as long as we know two of the other sides. Okay, and the way it works is this. His theorem, the formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Okay, so the square of the side A plus the square of side B will always equal the square of side C. Okay? And in this case, C is the hypotenuse, what we were just talking about. Okay? And this is the way it works. If we look at this triangle here, okay, and we look at the length of the side, so I'm just going to count, these are centimetres, right? So this side here is 4 centimetres. Can you see that? 1, 2, 3, 4. This side is 3 centimetres, 1, 2, 3 long, and this side, the hypotenuse, because it's opposite the right angle, remember, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares long, okay, or 5 centimetres. Okay, so there's our sides. I'm going to show you that by adding the squares of these two sides will always equal the square of this side. And the way it works is this. If I take a squared, remember squared means a times by itself. Okay, so we know that here, this side A is 3 centimetres. So I'm going to do 3 times 3, which equals 9. Okay, and you can see the square that this side makes up is 9 squared centimetres. Okay, all right, so we've got 9 there, which represents this 9 here. Now we've got this side, which is 4 centimetres, so we're going to square that. 4 times 4 equals 16. And again, if we made the square of square centimetres underneath that, we've got 16 squares there. Okay? The area of these two added together should equal the area of this one. So let's work out the area of C. So C is 5 centimetres long. Okay, so we've got 5 times 5, because remember it's c squared. So 5 times 5 is 25. So there are 25 squares in this square here, 25 centimetre squares. And if we add those two together, they should equal that. So remember, we've got 9 and we've got 16. So 9 plus 16 equals 25, which is the same. Okay, so the area of this square plus the area of this square, so the area of A, the area of B will equal the area of C, or C squared. Okay, this is how it works. And because we know that relationship, doesn't matter how big the triangle is, how small the triangle is, adding the squares up of these two sides will always equal the square of the opposite side. Okay, right, let's have a look at some examples and then you can see how it works. Okay, and as ever, it's really important, follow what I'm doing, and remember you can press pause if you need to. So here's an example. We've got a triangle. Oh, let's just get rid of that down there, it's going to get confusing. We've got a triangle and we know two of the sides, and we've got to find this side here. So the first thing we do is we write our formula out. Okay, now the reason to write it out is a couple of things. One, you need it to be able to work out the side, obviously, and two, it'll help you remember. The more you write it out, the more you'll remember it. Okay, now we need to label the triangle. So remember, the side opposite the right angle is C, or the hypotenuse. Okay, so the hypotenuse is called C. We can label this one or this one A or B, it doesn't matter. So I'm going to label this one A and this one B. You could have labelled that one A and that one B, it doesn't matter. Now we've labelled it, we've got a formula, we can substitute in what we know and find out what we don't. So we've got A squared, so A in this case is 6. So let's do 6 squared plus B is 8, so 8 squared. So those two added together should give us C squared. Or remember that big square behind that side there, the hypotenuse. Okay, so remember you need a calculator for this. So if you get your calculator, you can work it out, or if you can do it in your head, you know your times table, that's fine. So we've got 6 times 6, remember it's 6 squared, times by itself, plus 8 times 8 equals C squared. So 6 times 6 is 36, plus 8 times 8 is 64. If we add those together, we get C squared. So we can add those, so we've got 36 plus 64, 6 plus 4 is 10, carry our 1, 6 plus 3 is 9, don't forget our carry, that makes it 10, so we've got 100. Okay, so 100 is what C squared is equal to. Okay, now that tells us that that square behind that side is 100 centimetres squared. We don't want the whole square, we just want to know what this side is. So to do that, we do the opposite of squared, which is square root. Okay, I've got videos on square roots that you can watch. So the square root of 100. And all the square root means is what number, the answer to that is what number we can multiply by itself to get to 100. Now, you can use your calculator, so you can put the square root of 100 in, but square root of 100 is 10, because 10 times 10 is 100. Okay, so C, or the hypotenuse, its opposite, is equal to 100 centimetres. That's how long it is. Sorry, 100, silly me, 10 centimetres. Okay, right. Now, let's take a look at the second example now. So again, we write out our formula, and then we label up the triangle. So we're looking for C, which is the hypotenuse, remember, which is always opposite the right angle. So that's C. We can call this A and we can call this B, or we can put it the other way around, it doesn't matter. Okay, and now we're going to substitute in our values. So A is 7, so 7 squared, don't forget squared, plus B, which is 4, 4 squared. We add them together, we'll get C squared, or the size of the square there. Okay, so 7 times 7 plus 4 times 4 equals C squared. So 7 times 7 is 49, plus 4 times 4 is 16. Add those two together, I won't do that now, but that's 65. And now remember, we want C, we want the length of this side, not the whole square. That's the size of the whole square. We just want the side. So to do that, we square root 65. So I'm going to need my calculator for that one. So square root of 65. Square root of 65, if I'm rounding it to 2 decimal places, is 8.06, and in this case it's centimetres. Okay, so that side C is 8.06 centimetres long. Okay, let's do 2 more examples, and then you can have a go at some. So here's another 2 examples. Now you can see now, and this is what I was talking about earlier, the triangles are not necessarily in the right place, in the nice place with the right angle in the corner. They've been rotated a bit. It doesn't matter as long as we follow the same rules. Okay, so write our formula, right? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Label it up. Now remember, C is opposite the right angle. So here's C. We're trying to find C. And we can label this A and this B. It doesn't matter. And now we fill in and substitute in what we know. So A is 3, so 3 squared plus B is 11. 11 squared will equal C squared. Okay, so we can work these out. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 11 times 11 is 121. Okay, and you add those 2 together, it's 6 squared. Add them together is 130. So C squared is 130, but remember we just want the length of this side, not the square behind it. So we're going to square root 130. Okay, get my calculator and do that. Square root of 130, round it to 2 decimal places, there you go. It is 11.40 or 11.4 centimetres. Okay, right, last one. Write our formula out. Label up our triangle. So the opposite, C is the opposite, remember, so that's C. That's A and that's B. Remember, it doesn't matter, those two. So A is 6, so 6 squared plus B, which is 5 squared, will equal C squared. Okay, so 6 times 6 is 36, plus 5 times 5 is 25. That's C squared. Add those together, you get, what's that, 61. So C squared is 61, but we want just C, so we do the square root, remember. Grab my calculator again. And there's your answer. So it's 2 decimal places, is 7.81 centimetres. Okay, there's loads of examples for you. Remember, you can pause the video, go back and watch them again, it's up to you. But this time, it's time to pause the video when I show you the questions. So the questions are going to come up, pause it, have a go at the questions, and then once you're done, then have a look at the answers and see how well you did. Remember, if you don't do very well, that's fine. Just go back and re-watch and keep watching until you manage to get all the answers correct. Okay, here we go. So here are your questions. There are 10 questions, okay? I want you to have a go at all of them. Make sure you label them, make sure you write down the formula. And once you're done, check your answers. So good luck, and I hope you get them all right. Okay, right, hopefully you paused those for your questions. Now, I'm going to give you the answers. So if you don't want to see the answers, remember, make sure you pause it or rewind to go back. Here come your answers. Ready? Okay, so the answers are in red. Check your answers, see if you've got them right. Remember, if you haven't, go back and try again. Okay, well, that's it. That's the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it and you've learned something new today. There are loads more videos to watch and there's more coming up online on my YouTube channel. Remember that maths is all about practice, so keep practicing and practicing, okay? So 3 things that we learned today is 1, what the hypotenuse means. Remember, it's the longest side of a right angled triangle. We learned who Pythagoras was, that Greek guy who lived 2,500 years ago, and I showed you how his theorem works. And then finally, I showed you how to find the length of the missing side of the right angled triangle, in this case the hypotenuse, C. The next lesson on Pythagoras is going to show you how to find the missing side if it's A or B. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you have a great day. Take care. See you in the next video. Bye.